You're listening to the Dynamic Thinking Project podcast. This is episode 55, and today's topic is remote viewing. Hey everyone, Adam Moselli here. Welcome to the Dynamic Thinking Project podcast. If this is your first time listening, then thanks for coming. This podcast is released every Friday, and show notes are found at the website, themindtechinstitute.com. It's all one word. Come back often and feel free to add this podcast to your favorite RSS feed or iTunes. You can also follow me on Twitter and Facebook. All links are in the show notes and website. And now, let's get started. This is gonna be interesting, and as I said in the previous episode, that I believe remote viewing can be scientifically argued and sort of proven, unlike some other phenomena. But as any other mental abilities, I also think that it cannot be too reliable for decision making because you have to rely on one viewer's statement. Of course, unless if it's done in a controlled or a research lab, as we will talk about later in this episode. And just a little disclaimer here, I am not a remote viewer, but I know some people who are remote viewers, and as I previously said, that I have done many experiments with hypnosis, and we tapped onto many things including remote viewing and other related phenomena. So we'll talk about what is remote viewing, how governments used it, and briefly how it works. And to get the intro out of the way, if you are interested in learning and becoming a fully qualified hypnotherapist, neuro-linguistic programming, NLP practitioner or master practitioner, a life coach or a counselor, now you can study all that online. All you have to do is visit mti.edu.au or themindtechinstitute.com, and you will find all these courses along with many other courses and diplomas once you click on the online courses tab. All our diplomas and advanced diplomas are accredited and recognized worldwide, and for more information, all can be found online, themindtechinstitute.com. So, what is remote viewing? Remote viewing is a mental ability and practice. It involves PSI or psychic abilities. It allows a perceiver or the viewer to transfer perceptual information across time and space, and also to describe or give details about a target that is inaccessible to normal senses due to distance, time, or even it could be hidden. For example, a viewer might be asked to describe a location on the other side of the world which he or she has never visited, or a viewer might describe an event that happened long ago. And also a viewer may describe an object sealed in a container or locked in a room, or perhaps even describe a person or an activity, all without being told anything about the target, not even its name or designation. It is clear that remote viewing works in a complete violation of the accepted laws of quantum and relativistic physics. There is a theory about why it works on the level of physics, but that theory has not yet gained mainstream acceptance. The core of that theory involves an interpretation of quantum mechanics that is known as the other worlds interpretation from the famous two-slit experiments that was developed by Hugh Everett and published in 1975. And we also teach that experiment in our NLP Master Practitioner training, so you would know what I'm talking about if you have done that online course or in-class course with us. Now, who developed remote viewing and why I believe it's more scientific than other PSI phenomena? You see, remote viewing procedures were originally developed in laboratories funded by the United States military and intelligence services and used for spying and espionage purposes. The scientific understanding of the remote viewing phenomenon has greatly advanced in recent years. And as a result, the process of remote viewing can now be sort of reliably demonstrated in both laboratory and operational settings. And by the way, remote viewing isn't only one set or style. There are a number of styles of remote viewing procedures that are properly practiced, such as scientific remote viewing, SRV, controlled remote viewing, CRV, as well as a few others. Remote viewers use one or more of these styles to gather descriptive data of a target, which is usually some place or an event at some point in time. Remote viewing is also done under blind conditions, which means that the remote viewer must know nothing about the target when conducting the remote viewing session. All of the various styles of remote viewing require both training and regular practice in order for a remote viewer to become, let's say, proficient at remote viewing at any style. Now, from what I know and been told that remote viewing is normally considered as a controlled shifting of awareness that is performed in a normal waking state of consciousness. And also, it does not typically involve any out-of-body experience, astral projection, and altered state of consciousness or channeling, but a light state of hypnosis, and here we're talking about above somnambulism level, so you're still using your conscious mind and you're just a bit relaxed to minimize your mind noises, and we will get to that point later. And also, as I said before, that remote viewing is often performed in laboratory experiments involving PSI functioning. The targets used in such experiments are normally considered verifiable, which means that everything that needs to be known about such targets either has been or can be determined so that the remote viewing data can be compared with the facts or the target facts. A great deal of research is currently being done with regard to remote viewing process, and researchers are trying to understand the underlying mechanism of PSI functioning, as well as to develop theories that explain various known and repeatable phenomena associated with remote viewing and other PSI abilities, but specifically remote viewing. And it is a matter of historical record that remote viewing has been used operationally in the past with considerable success by the US and other governments for espionage purposes or other spying purposes, and a number of books recounting such programs have been also published. And there was an official governmental evaluation of a significant part of the government's early remote viewing program, both in the US and elsewhere, such as the Stargate project. It's very, very interesting if you look it up, which primarily involved remote viewing, and you will find some well-known names were involved in the Stargate project, such as Ingo Swann. You will find some videos for him talking about remote viewing and what he found on the moon while remote viewing and other places. Also, Pat Price, a police officer who participated in a number of Cold War era remote viewing experiments, including the US government sponsored project, Scanate, and the Stargate project. And also you'll find other military personnel who were trained and practiced remote viewing, such as Major General Albert Stubblebine, David Morehouse. By the way, I read his book, a very interesting book. It's called Psychic Warrior, Inside the CIA's Stargate Program. And of course, Ed Dames, who was one of the first 5 Army students trained by Ingo Swann through Stage 3 in coordinate remote viewing. And I first knew about his work and about him through Coast to Coast AM radio. Very interesting, and he also talked about findings in some sessions on Atlantis, on Mars, UFOs, and aliens. Just look him up. His name is Ed Dames. Now, we still have about probably 5 minutes, so I think we have time to talk about some remote viewing techniques. So briefly, let's talk about some remote viewing techniques, and those are basic and universal. And of course, as everything else, it requires lots of practice. And once again, I don't do remote viewing, but this is what I have been told and also found. And from a psychological point of view, these techniques may work, and they make lots of sense too. I mean, to work. So first, you need to select a range of targets. For example, you do that by, let's say, asking a friend or a family member or someone to assist you to select 5 to 10 pictures. Ask them to cut the images from magazines and paste them on sheets of blank white paper with 1 picture per sheet. The images should be real-world pictures, such as people, architecture, nature, etc. Number 2 is ask your assistant or friend to put the images in an envelope. Now ask them to stack the images in an envelope face down, and they should say absolutely nothing about them to you. You will view them one at a time, getting feedback after each session from the face-down target at the top of the pile. Number 3, you must quiet your mind. And I said earlier, I will get to this later, you want as little mental noise as possible. And that's when I said a light state of hypnosis would work, and that light state should be above somnambulism, which is a state of hypnosis. Number 4, let go. So write down the date, time, and any ideas you want to let go of and may distract you while viewing. Number 5, call the first target to mind. Begin the session by describing the most basic impressions you have of the first target site, event, or person. And what do you feel is the predominant thing in the target? For example, if it's natural or artificial, surrounded by land or water, just write several descriptors down. Number 6, do not second guess yourself. That's because the conscious mind always doubting things, and we also teach that in hypnosis. So write down the first thing comes to your mind. Just make sure to write down the information as descriptively as possible, and don't judge anything. Number 7, connect the dots unconsciously. You see, information coming from your mind and automatic nervous system, the idea is that your unconscious mind already knows everything there is to know about the target. It just has to communicate that to your conscious mind, and it does that through subtle sensations and feelings that are picked up by your senses. Number 8, describe the basics. Write down sensory information that comes up, like visual, smell, which is olfactory, tastes, which is gustatory, and temperatures. you may start perceiving sizes, shapes, and patterns, and also known as dimensionals. You may even start to feel an emotional reaction to the target if the target contains or has lots of emotional things, such as, for example, pain and crying and agony from wars, and or maybe death or something like that. So those events, they tend to contain more emotional things to them. And of course, there are happy emotions with happy events. Number 9, draw a sketch of the target. Take your time and don't worry about how your sketches look like, but take your time to sketch. Number 10, find a bird's eye view. You need to imagine yourself floating few hundred meters or several hundred feet over the target area, and if there is anything surprising about the target that you can perceive, anything that will help you to find the target, and make note of your final impressions about the target. Number 11 is end the session. Write down the time and brief summary of what you have perceived, and this is how you can document it later. Number 12, get feedback. And the way you do that is pull the top of the photo from the envelope and see how you did. Take your time to really look at the colors and shapes of the images and compare it to your notes. Number 13 and the last step is review and repeat. If you didn't connect with anything in the photo, don't worry. The main point of remote viewing is to learn about yourself, not just to be accurate. Remember that remote viewing is an ability you may cultivate and require lots of practice, just as any other PSI abilities. They require lots of practice and making mistakes, and that's how you learn. So that's it, and I think we have covered everything about remote viewing. And once again, if you would like to study and become a fully qualified hypnotherapist, neuro-linguistic programming practitioner, master practitioner levels, or even a counselor, now you can study all that online. All you have to do is visit mti.edu.au or themindtechinstitute.com, and you will find all these courses along with many other courses and diplomas and advanced diplomas once you click on the online courses tab. And all our diplomas and advanced diplomas are accredited and recognized worldwide. And for more information, all can be found online, themindtechinstitute.com. That's it for today. Thank you for listening. If you have any questions, as usual, you can email me. The email is on our website, themindtechinstitute.com. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, especially if you are listening to this podcast on YouTube. The Dynamic Thinking Project podcast is released every Friday. Until next time, take care and enjoy your weekend. This is Adam Muselli signing out.